Greetings, beautiful people. I hope that you're having a fabulous day. So today I thought I would do a video on shadow work, what it actually is, why it's needed, and the reason why a lot of people actually don't do their own shadow work. So to start with, what is shadow work? Shadow work is basically examining our traumas, our pains, our insecurities, all them restrictive feelings that we keep suppressed and keep dug down deep and we don't like to bring up, those things that make us feel uncomfortable or insecure, those things that stop us from progressing because we feel as though we're not worth progressing forward into. Now, these feelings, when they are ignored and not tended to, they tend to come up in our adulthood in ugly ways. And what tends to happen is that we always go and drop back into the age that we had the trauma in to begin with, because obviously we never resolved those past issues when certain negative what am I looking for, Spirit? What's the word I'm looking for? When those feelings arose, you never took care of them. And so what happened as an adult is somebody brought along a situation, because you know the universe will send you the situation over and over again until it's healed. So somebody brought up feelings that were very similar to that past situation, to the way that it made you feel. And what ended up happening is that you didn't end up responding as your adult and your emotionally mature self. You ended up responding as the wounded inner child. You ended up responding in a manner that isn't actually the way that you portray yourself as now, the way that you feel as you are. So why is this needed? Right, so, we have a lot of people that are talking about the ascension process and getting higher, and there's so many people about the love and light. Well, the ascension in itself and your spiritual growth is not actually possible without shadow work, because shadow work is probably one of the main factors to do with healing and enlightenment, because you're actually bringing the stuff from the dark into the light, and it's only through that awareness and through learning about yourself to that degree that you end up progressing, becoming lighter, knowing yourself, accepting your light and your dark, because we all have it. So it's a very, very important aspect of being a light worker, being an enlightened one, being on this spiritual journey. Like, this is why a lot of people don't actually do their own shadow work, because it's so much easier to stay in the light and stay in this peace and positive place and promote all of this beautiful light, when in essence you're trying to ascend and you're trying to get higher. But if you've got all of these subconscious thoughts pulling you back, and you've got all of this negative reinforcement in the back of your brain telling you that you are not worth it, or it's not enough, or the people that are around you are not going to understand it, they're going to think you're talking shit, like that kind of programming suppresses everything that you do in progression of your spirit self. It doesn't help you to evolve as a being. And this is why a lot of people don't do their shadow work, because it is physically easier to stay in that love and light place instead of dipping into that place that you don't really want to go into. You don't really want to admit that you have all of these self-deprecating feelings, or that you don't feel like you're worth, or you don't feel like you're loved. We'd rather stay in this place where we're quite comfortable and we're quite happy with ourselves, but really and truly it's only by really bringing that out of us and bringing it into the light and having the awareness of why we do the things that we do, can we start to not only release that inner child and start to bring into awareness the things that we actually need in order to progress as fully functioning adults. Because a lot of us, we have healed to a certain degree, and we do have an emotional stability as adults whereby we can discern what is right for us and what is wrong. But when we have certain things that are kept in our subconscious mind and they're suppressed and suppressed and suppressed, it only takes one person to come up to you and give you a similar situation for you to in fact go straight back to young childhood, teenage age, whichever age that the trauma or situation began, whenever these feelings started to come up, and you will react in exactly the same way as you did when you were a teenager. This is what people don't understand. You can want to ascend as much as you want, but until you actually delve into that dark aspect of yourself and come to an understanding that, you know what, actually it's an inner standing, because it's something that resides within you, it's nothing external. When you come to the inner standing that this stuff happened to you, and a majority of the time it is unfair, the things that happen to you, and you know, when you have a whole heap of emotions that come along with that. As young children, we blame ourselves when we don't know how to handle these emotions, when we don't have adults outside of ourselves that we can speak to, when we have nobody outside of ourselves that can validate us and love us in the ways that we need to be loved. The fact of the matter is, we tend to suppress that down and we call ourselves bad for being that way, but it's not actually the case. We can't help the way that other people got taught how to love. We cannot help what other people didn't know before they knew it. We can't help it when our adults around us, the people that are supposed to be taking care of us and loving us, don't have that knowledge within them because they were never shown the tools in order to move forward with theirs. So how would they be able to show us how to move forward? This is a simple video. This isn't about how to get into shadow work. Not yet anyway. I'm going to be posting that one soon. But this is most definitely a video about why you should be taking part in your own shadow work and trying to integrate your shadow, because we are all full of dark and light, and we have all been through situations that we don't really want to talk about, things that actually still pain our soul. I'm still doing a lot of inner child work myself, and so I know exactly how painful this whole process can be, especially when you have to acknowledge that the adults around you were just not emotionally, you know, independent enough that they could show us this. In fact, like most of the adults that I grew up around showed me emotional codependence. They showed me how to look for happiness outside of myself, how to look for love outside of myself. So as a young adult, that's what I looked for. Relationships that validated me from the outside instead of looking for that internal validation myself. And this is something that I'm coming to terms with, something that I started coming to terms with in my 30s, because I didn't actually know what I was doing up until that point. So please, make sure that if you have these triggers and you have these things come up, that you take part in your own shadow work, that you are looking at the deeper aspects of how and why you behave the ways that you do. And please just take a little bit of accountability. And that is not self-blame or self-deprecation. This is all my fault and I should have done something more. No, this is more along the lines of, you know, I can't help the things that happened to me. I can't help the adults that were around me at the time. But what I can help is that I am an emotionally mature adult. I'm going to discern these feelings, what belonged to me, what never belonged to me, what got taught, and what I really need to change. And I'm going to forgive myself and forgive everybody involved and move forward with the understanding or the inner standing that that is not who I am right now, that those past traumas and those past events were a part of who I was. It was part of, you know, my past. And maybe some of us made it a part of our identity as well, because I most certainly did for a very, very long time. I didn't know any better. But this is not the time to beat yourself up. This is a time for forgiveness and accountability and understanding that as an adult, that some of these behaviors just do not suit us and they do not comprehend with the life that we are trying to create. And bringing that into your awareness is literally bringing it from the dark into the light. And this is what shadow work is all about, because it's only with that awareness and dropping the guilt and dropping the burden of how we should have been treated, how we could have been treated, how we would treat our children, dropping that judgment and just understanding that they did the best with what they could at the time. And for some of us, you know, it simply wasn't good enough. But as adults, we can choose to change that pattern of behavior within our own children and our own family dynamics, in our own friendship groups. But it's only when we bring it into awareness that we can start to do that. So I hope that this video helps with anybody who is going through their shadow work process. It is not an easy process by any means whatsoever. So I'm sending you a lot of love and a lot of healing and a lot of light for those of you that are going through their process and actually just trying to accept themselves for who they are, because it's not easy. But you know what? It's worth it when you can ascend and you can look at yourself in the mirror and know that, you know, you have been able to drop certain patterns of behavior. You've been able to improve yourself just by looking at the ways that you have behaved and the ways that they have behaved and discerning what was actually, you know, what was a positive experience, what was negative, what you're going to bring forth with you, the lessons that you're going to bring forth and the emotions that you're not going to allow to come up again. And it's not to not come up again, but to not trigger you back into that space where you feel as though you need to react instead of respond. This is our actual adult emotional body taking over and being like, you know what, this stops with us. We're going to do better because we choose better. And because we don't want our children or anybody else to have to experience the same type of pain, the same type of triggers, the same type of emotional invalidation that a lot of us faced when we were younger. So sending you all a lot of love and light, and I will see you all again soon. Bye.